In this lesson, we're going to be talking about dissecting packets or dissecting frames. With Wireshark, we have the ability to have Wireshark do a lot of the analysis for us in terms of pulling all of the bits and bytes apart to explain them in a really useful way. So we don't actually have to go down and say, well, what's that 33? What does that actually mean? Wireshark will do all of that for us. Now, sometimes Wireshark actually gets confused and doesn't always understand exactly what's happening. You can see in the protocol column here that Wireshark identifies a protocol that it is aware of. Now, if I were to go down and right-click on this here, what I could do is say decode as. So this is a TCP segment right here. And if I were to do a decode, what I get is a potential set of rules. If the TCP port is actually 80, the default is HTTP. It was basing this on the source port, which you can see down below here in the TCP section. The source port was 50,360, and so Wireshark said, oh, 50,360, well, I don't know what that is. If I say it's port 80, though, the default is actually HTTP. That's a particular decode that Wireshark is aware of. If I select over here under current, of course it says none because it didn't really find anything to do any decoding on. Now, if I were to scroll down, I could select something else, maybe, for example, SIP, because the session initiation protocol is actually based on HTTP. So I could say, no, that's actually SIP, or I could force it to do a decode as HTTP here, and then I click OK. And we haven't really changed anything because it didn't really find much of anything that looks like HTTP. This one down below, it did recognize as HTTP because, of course, there's a post message there. In this one, there's just a segment. It's not a complete packet. And so there's not enough really to go on here for Wireshark to say, oh, well, that's a complete HTTP message, and so it really couldn't do a decode for us. However, you may from time to time run into situations where Wireshark may not completely understand what it is that it's looking at, or if you have custom packets that you are looking at, what you can do is you could actually create a packet dissector of your own, and then you could do a decode. Of course, you can also set up additional rules if you wanted. So if you were to say IP protocol were equal to whatever this particular segment happened to show, then you could set up an additional rule here, which would allow Wireshark to determine what actually they're going to do the decoding as. You could set up a number of different rules here and tell Wireshark exactly how you want this particular segment to be decoded for you. So again, you're not having to do a lot of manual dissection and decoding to figure out what's actually happening with this particular segment or packet.